I stood at the doorway, holding a bag of groceries when I heard their laughter coming from our bedroom. It was a moment that would forever change my life. I couldn't believe that my wife, Catherine, was cheating on me with Jacob Keller, a successful attorney. A fire ignited within me, and I decided that I couldn't just let this go unnoticed. As I stood there, my mind raced with 1,000 thoughts. How long had this been going on? Was I really that blind to what was happening right under my nose? The sound of their voices, filled with intimacy and laughter, cut through me like a knife. I wanted to burst into the room, confront them, and demand answers. But something held me back. Perhaps it was the fear of facing the truth, or the desire to gather more information before making a move. Whatever it was, I found myself slowly backing away, the bag of groceries suddenly feeling like a heavy burden. As I made my way to the kitchen, I tried to calm my racing heart. I needed to think clearly, to devise a plan. This wasn't just about my marriage, it was about my pride and my self-respect. I couldn't let them get away with this betrayal. In the quiet of the kitchen, I began to formulate a strategy. My skills in programming had always been a source of pride for me, and now they would become my weapon. I would create a high-tech surveillance device, one that could record their every interaction, every whispered secret. With this knowledge, I would uncover the truth and bring them to justice. The anger and hurt fueled my determination. I would not rest until I had exposed their deceit and reclaimed my rightful place in my own life. This was war, and I was ready to fight. As I prepared the evening meal, a facade of normalcy, I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The foundations of my marriage had been shattered, and it was up to me to pick up the pieces or let it all crumble. But one thing was certain, I would never be the same man again. As I stood in the kitchen, preparing dinner with mechanical precision, my mind was already racing ahead, formulating a plan of action. I had always been passionate about programming, and now it would become my salvation. Retreating to my home office, I began to sketch out the design for a high-tech surveillance device. It would need to be small, discreet, and capable of recording audio and video with crystal clarity. I pored over schematics and lines of code, fueled by a determination that bordered on obsession. Day after day, I spent countless hours hunched over my computer, fingers flying across the keyboard. I barely slept, barely ate, consumed by the need to create the perfect device. It was as if I had become possessed by a singular purpose, a mission to uncover the truth and expose the betrayal. As the days turned into weeks, I began to see the fruits of my labor. The device took shape, as a marvel of miniaturization and technological prowess. It was a testament to my skills as a programmer and my unwavering focus. Finally, the day arrived when I could test the device. I held my breath as I activated it, watching the tiny lights flicker to life. To my relief and satisfaction, it worked flawlessly, capturing the sounds and images with stunning clarity. With the device ready, I knew that the time had come to put my plan into action. I would install it in our bedroom, a silent witness to their illicit meetings. The thought of it made my stomach churn with a mixture of anticipation and dread, but I pushed those feelings aside. I was on a mission, and nothing would stop me from seeing it through to the end. As I made my way to the bedroom, the device in hand, I couldn't help but feel a sense of power. I was no longer the helpless victim, but a man in control of his destiny. With each step, my resolve hardened, and I knew that I would stop at nothing to uncover the truth and bring it to justice. After carefully installing the device in our bedroom, I felt a mix of anticipation and dread. I had transformed my pain into a technological solution, but now I was about to confront the reality of my situation. Each passing hour felt like an eternity as I waited for the first recordings to capture the truth I so desperately sought. Finally, the moment arrived. I sat in my dimly lit office, the glow of the computer screen illuminating my face as I prepared to listen. My heart raced, and I took a deep breath, reminding myself that I needed to stay calm. I clicked the play button, and the recordings began to unfold. At first, it was just the sound of laughter, Catherine's light, melodic voice mingling with Jacob's deeper, more confident tones. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach as I listened to their playful banter, the intimacy in their words stinging like a fresh wound. I had to remind myself that I was doing this for a reason, to uncover the truth behind their relationship. As the recordings progressed, the laughter faded, replaced by more serious conversations. I leaned in closer, my heart pounding in my chest. It became clear that their meetings were not just about pleasure, They were discussing business, Jacob's clients, sensitive information, and potentially illegal dealings. My mind raced as I processed the implications of what I was hearing. Jacob was using Catherine not only as a source of comfort but as a pawn in his game of deceit. He was extracting information from her, leveraging her trust in ways I had never imagined. Anger surged through me, hot and consuming. How could he manipulate her like this? How could she be so blind to his true intentions? With each revelation, my resolve strengthened. This was no longer just about my personal betrayal, it was about exposing a corrupt attorney who was willing to exploit those around him for his gain. I felt a sense of purpose wash over me, igniting a fire within that I hadn't known I possessed. After listening to the recordings multiple times, I knew I had to act. I needed to gather more evidence to ensure that when the time came, Jacob would face the consequences of his actions. I began to formulate a plan, one that would allow me to confront him with undeniable proof of his treachery. As I turned off the recordings, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and sorrow. I had uncovered the truth, but it came at a cost. My heart ached for the woman I once loved, now entangled in a web of deceit. But I couldn't let my emotions cloud my judgment. I had to stay focused on my goal, justice. With the first recordings as a starting point, I began to meticulously gather evidence against Jacob. Each new recording added another layer to his scheme, revealing the depths of his deception. I listened intently, taking notes and cross-referencing details, determined to uncover the full extent of his wrongdoing. As the days turned into weeks, my obsession with the task at hand grew. I spent countless hours in my office, headphones firmly in place, analyzing every word, every inflection in their voices. I became intimately familiar with their conversations, the way they interacted, and the secrets they shared. The more I learned, the more I realized the gravity of the situation. Jacob's actions went far beyond a simple affair. He was manipulating his clients, using their trust and confidentiality to his advantage. The information he extracted from Catherine could potentially ruin careers and lives. With each new revelation, my determination only grew stronger. I knew that the evidence I was gathering could destroy Jacob's career, and that thought fueled my relentless pursuit. I was no longer just a scorned husband, I was a crusader for justice, determined to bring down a corrupt individual who had abused his power. The recordings became my obsession, my sole focus in life. I would listen to them over and over, searching for any missed details, any clues that could further strengthen my case. I became a master of pattern recognition, identifying the subtle shifts in their conversations that hinted at the larger scheme. As the weeks turned into months, the weight of the evidence against Jacob grew heavier. I had amassed a dossier of recordings, emails, and documents that painted a damning picture of his misdeeds. The thought of finally confronting him with this information filled me with a sense of triumph and trepidation. I knew that the moment I presented this evidence to the authorities, there would be no turning back. Jacob's life would be forever altered, and Catherine would be caught in the crossfire. But I couldn't let that stop me. I had come too far, invested too much of myself in this pursuit to back down now. With a deep breath, I began to organize the evidence, preparing for the showdown. I would bring Jacob down, no matter the cost. This was my mission, my reason for living. I had become a man possessed, driven by a thirst for justice that knew no bounds. As I delved deeper into the web of Jacob's deceit, I realized that I needed more than just recordings to build my case. I needed hard evidence, documents, emails, anything that could serve as a smoking gun. The thought of hacking into Jacob's email account sent a rush of adrenaline through me. It was risky, but I knew I had no other choice. With my programming skills at the ready, I set to work. I spent hours researching hacking techniques, brushing up on my cybersecurity knowledge. I was determined to breach the fortress of Jacob's digital life, to expose the secrets he thought were safely locked away. The thrill of the challenge only fueled my obsession. After several nights of painstaking effort, I finally managed to gain access to his email account. My heart raced as I navigated through the inbox, scanning for anything that could provide the evidence I needed. The sheer volume of messages was overwhelming, but I focused on the most recent correspondence, hoping to find something that would connect him to the illegal activities I suspected. As I sifted through the emails, I stumbled upon a treasure trove of compromising information. Messages were detailing shady deals, client information that should have remained confidential, and discussions about manipulating legal outcomes for personal gain. Each email I opened felt like a dagger to my heart, confirming my worst fears about the man who had betrayed me. I couldn't believe how brazen Jacob had been. He had left a digital trail that was both damning and undeniable. I quickly began to download and save the most incriminating emails, organizing them into folders for easy access. This was the evidence I needed to bring him down. The more I uncovered, the more my anger boiled over. Jacob wasn't just a cheating husband, he was a criminal, exploiting his position to enrich himself at the expense of others. The realization that he had been using Catherine as a pawn in his schemes only intensified my resolve. I would not allow him to continue his reign of deceit. With each discovery, I felt a sense of empowerment. I was no longer just a victim, I was a man on a mission, armed with the truth. I could see the endgame in sight, and it filled me with a mix of exhilaration and dread. I knew that once I presented this evidence to the authorities, there would be no turning back. Jacob's life would unravel, and Catherine would be left to pick up the pieces. As I closed my laptop, I took a moment to reflect on the path I had chosen. I was consumed by a desire for justice, but I couldn't shake the feeling of impending consequences. This was a dangerous game I was playing, and I was fully aware of the risks involved. But I had come too far to turn back now. The truth was within my grasp, and I was determined to see it through to the end. With the incriminating emails and documents in my possession, I began to meticulously plan my next move. I needed to ensure that I had all the evidence I required before taking action against Jacob. The stakes were too high to make a mistake. I spent countless hours reviewing the materials, cross-referencing details, and ensuring that every piece of evidence was airtight. I felt like a spy preparing for a final mission, leaving nothing to chance. Each document was carefully catalogued and organized, ready to be presented to the authorities when the time was right. As I delved deeper into the evidence, the gravity of the situation weighed heavily on me. I realized that this was no longer just about exposing Jacob's affair, it was about bringing down a corrupt individual who had abused his power for personal gain. The thought of the consequences that would follow sent a shiver down my spine. I knew that once I set this plan in motion, there would be no turning back. Jacob's life would be forever altered, and Catherine would be caught in the crossfire. The thought of hurting her, even unintentionally, made my heart ache. But I had come too far to let my emotions cloud my judgment. With a steely resolve, I continued to refine my plan. I would present the evidence to the authorities, ensuring that every detail was accounted for. I wanted to leave no room for doubt, no opportunity for Jacob to wriggle out of the consequences of his actions. As the days turned into weeks, I felt a sense of anticipation and dread. I was ready to take the final step, to bring this chapter of my life to a close. But the uncertainty of what lay ahead weighed heavily on me. I knew that once I set this plan in motion, there would be no going back. In the quiet moments, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had led me here. I had transformed from a scorned husband into a determined crusader for justice. I had harnessed my skills and knowledge to uncover the truth, to right a wrong that had been done to me. But as I looked at the evidence before me, I couldn't help but feel a sense of sadness. This was not the outcome I had hoped for when I first discovered Catherine's betrayal. I had hoped for reconciliation, for a chance to rebuild what we had lost. But now, it seemed that the only path forward was one of confrontation and consequence. With a deep breath, I gathered the evidence, ready to take the final step. I knew that whatever happened next, I would be forever changed by this experience. But I also knew that I had to see it through. For my sense of justice and closure, this was my moment to reclaim my life, to stand up to the man who had wronged me. As I made my way out the door, I felt a strange mix of trepidation and determination. I was about to embark on a journey that would alter the course of my life forever. But I was ready, prepared to face whatever came next, armed with the truth and a resolve that would not be broken. The day I handed over the collected evidence to the authorities was one of the most intense days of my life. As I sat in the sterile conference room of the police station, my heart raced with a mix of anticipation and dread. I had prepared for this moment, but nothing could truly prepare me for the emotional whirlwind that was about to unfold. I laid out the evidence before the officers, the recordings, the emails, the documents detailing Jacob's illegal activities. Each piece was a testament to his deceit and manipulation, a clear picture of the man who had betrayed not only me but countless others. As I watched the officers review the files, I felt a surge of vindication. This was it, justice was within reach. Yet, as the gravity of the situation sank in, a heavy weight settled in my chest. I knew that Jacob's arrest would shatter his life, but more than that, it would devastate Catherine. Despite everything that had happened, she was still the woman I had loved, and the thought of her pain gnawed at me. I couldn't help but wonder how she would react when the truth came crashing down around her. The officers exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from skepticism to seriousness as they absorbed the information I had provided. I could see the wheels turning in their minds, the realization of the magnitude of Jacob's actions dawning upon them. It was a moment of clarity, and I felt a sense of power in knowing that I had played a part in exposing the truth. After what felt like an eternity, one of the detectives looked up at me, his expression resolute. "We're going to take this seriously," he said. "We'll need to gather more evidence, but we'll move forward with an arrest." My heart raced at his words, a mix of relief and anxiety flooding through me. Justice was finally within reach, but at what cost? As the officers began to make their preparations, I felt a surge of adrenaline. I had done it, I had taken a stand against the man who had wronged me. But as the reality of the situation set in, I couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. I was about to become a catalyst for chaos in Catherine's life. And the thought of it weighed heavily on my conscience. Later that day, I found myself pacing in my office, anxiety coursing through me. I replayed the events in my mind, grappling with the consequences of my actions. I had sought justice, but I had also unleashed a storm that would alter the lives of everyone involved. I couldn't help but wonder if there was a way to salvage Catherine's dignity amidst the fallout. As night fell, I received a call from the detective. "We've arrested Jacob," he said, his voice steady. "He's in custody, and we'll be pressing charges." A wave of mixed emotions washed over me, victory, relief, and an undeniable sense of loss. I had achieved what I set out to do, but the reality of the situation felt heavy. In the days that followed, news of Jacob's arrest spread like wildfire. The media picked up the story, and I found myself caught in a whirlwind of attention. I was no longer just a man wronged, I was a figure in a scandal that captivated the public. But amidst the chaos, I couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness. I had won a battle, but at the cost of my marriage and the woman I once loved. As I prepared to face the world in the aftermath of Jacob's arrest, I knew that my life would never be the same. I had taken a stand for justice, but I had also lost a piece of myself in the process. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was determined to navigate it with integrity, no matter the consequences. Jacob was arrested, and in the blink of an eye, his career was shattered. The once respected attorney was now a headline in every major news outlet, his reputation tarnished beyond repair. I watched as the consequences of my actions unfolded, a mixture of satisfaction and sorrow swirling within me. Justice had been served, but at what cost? In the days following the arrest, the atmosphere in my home was thick with tension. I had expected some form of closure, a sense of victory, but instead, I was met with an overwhelming sense of loss. The reality of what had transpired weighed heavily on my heart. I had exposed Jacob for the man he truly was, but I had also lost Catherine in the process. Then, one evening, as I sat in the living room lost in thought, the doorbell rang. My heart raced as I opened the door to find Catherine standing there, her eyes filled with tears. She looked fragile, a shadow of the woman I once knew. The sight of her stirred a whirlwind of emotions within me: love, anger, betrayal, and pity. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice trembling. I hesitated for a moment, the memories of our happier times flooding back. But the pain of her betrayal was still fresh, and I wasn't sure I could bear to face it again. "Okay," I finally replied, stepping aside to let her in. As she entered, I felt an overwhelming sense of nostalgia mixed with bitterness. The home that had once been filled with laughter and love now felt like a battleground of emotions. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of unspoken words hanging between us. Finally, Catherine broke the silence. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice cracking. "I didn't realize what I was doing until it was too late. I thought I could handle it, but I lost myself in his world." I felt my heart ache at her words, torn between the remnants of love I still held for her and the anger that simmered just beneath the surface. "You lost yourself?" I echoed, my voice laced with disbelief. "You were the one who chose to betray me, Catherine. You made that choice." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she looked at me. Desperation in her eyes. I know. I was wrong. I thought I could separate my feelings for you and Jacob, but I was naive. I never wanted to hurt you. Please, I need you to understand that. As she spoke, I felt the walls I had built around my heart begin to crack. I wanted to hate her, to push her away and never look back. But the love we had shared for so long was a powerful force, and it fought against the bitterness that threatened to consume me. Do you realize what you've done? I asked, my voice softening. You've destroyed everything we built together. Jacob may be the one in jail, but you're the one who chose to be with him. I don't know if I can ever forgive you for that. Catherine nodded, her expression one of remorse. I understand. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, if ever. But I need you to know how deeply sorry I am. I've lost everything, and I'm terrified of what comes next. As I looked into her eyes, I saw the pain and regret reflected on me. It was a reminder of the love we once shared. A love that now felt like a distant memory. I felt a surge of conflicting emotions, anger, sadness, and a flicker of hope that perhaps, in time, we could find a way to heal. I don't know what the future holds for us, Catherine, I said finally, my voice steady. But I can't pretend that everything is okay. We have a long way to go if we're ever going to move past this. She nodded, understanding the weight of my words. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. I just need a chance. As she spoke, I felt a glimmer of something. Perhaps it was hope, or perhaps it was simply the remnants of love that still lingered in my heart. But I knew that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. Trust, once broken, is not easily repaired. At that moment, I made a choice. I would not close the door on our past, but I would also not allow myself to be blinded by love. It was time to confront the truth of our relationship, to navigate the complexities of forgiveness and healing. Whatever the outcome, I was ready to face it head on, even if it meant embracing the uncertainty of what lay ahead. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself grappling with the aftermath of Jacob's arrest and my tumultuous relationship with Catherine. While we had begun to navigate the rocky terrain of forgiveness, I realized that I needed to take a step back and focus on my healing. It was during this time that I met Laura. Laura was a breath of fresh air, completely different from Catherine in every way. She was vibrant, adventurous, and had a zest for life that was infectious. Our first meeting was at a local coffee shop, where we struck up a conversation over shared interests in technology and literature. I was immediately drawn to her warmth and genuine spirit. As we began to spend more time together, I felt a sense of happiness that had been absent for far too long. With Laura, I could be myself without the weight of past betrayals hanging over me. She listened attentively, encouraged my passions, and brought laughter back into my life. It was as if she had a magical ability to lift the fog of sadness that had clouded my heart. I found myself looking forward to our dates, exploring new restaurants, hiking in the nearby hills, and sharing our favorite books. With each passing day, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Laura reminded me that life continues, even after the most painful experiences. She helped me rediscover joy in the little things, and I began to see the world through a brighter lens. One evening, as we strolled through a park, the sun setting behind us, I turned to her and said, "You know, I never thought I could feel this way again after everything that happened." Laura smiled, her eyes sparkling with understanding. "It's okay to embrace happiness, even after heartbreak. You deserve it." Her words resonated with me, and I realized that I was finally beginning to let go of the past. I had spent so much time dwelling on my pain and anger that I had forgotten what it felt like to truly live. With Laura, I felt free to explore new possibilities and to open my heart again. As our relationship deepened, I found myself reflecting on my journey. I had faced betrayal, heartache, and loss, but I had also emerged stronger and wiser. I learned valuable lessons about trust, love, and the importance of prioritizing my well-being. I was no longer defined by my past, I was shaping my future. But even as I embraced this new chapter, I remained mindful of the complexities of my feelings for Catherine. We had begun to rebuild our friendship, and I wanted to honor that while also allowing myself to move forward. It was a delicate balance, but I was determined to navigate it with grace. One afternoon, I invited Catherine to join Laura and me for lunch. It was a step I had considered carefully, knowing that it could be a pivotal moment in our healing process. As we sat together, sharing stories and laughter, I felt a sense of hope. Perhaps it was possible to create a new dynamic, one where we could coexist without the shadows of the past looming over us. As I glanced at Laura, her laughter filling the air, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I was on a new path, one that held the promise of growth and happiness. I had learned that life could be beautiful again, even after betrayal. And with each passing day, I was more convinced that I was exactly where I was meant to be, embracing the future with an open heart and a renewed spirit. One sunny afternoon, I was walking hand in hand with Laura, the warmth of the sun casting a golden hue over our surroundings. We were enjoying a stroll through the park, laughing and sharing stories, when suddenly, I caught a glimpse of a familiar figure in the distance. My heart sank as I recognized Catherine. She stood by a bench, her shoulders slumped and her gaze cast downward. In that moment, she looked lost and vulnerable, a stark contrast to the confident woman I once knew. My pulse quickened, and a wave of conflicting emotions washed over me. Old feelings surged to the surface, memories of our shared laughter and love flooding my mind. But I quickly reminded myself of the pain she had caused, the betrayal that had shattered our relationship. "Is everything okay?" Laura asked, sensing my sudden tension. I nodded, though I felt anything but okay. I knew I had to confront this moment, but I also understood the importance of being honest with Laura. It's Catherine," I said, gesturing toward her. Laura squeezed my hand, offering silent support. "Do you want to go say hi?" she asked gently. I hesitated, torn between the urge to reach out to my past and the desire to protect the new life I was building with Laura. Taking a deep breath, I decided to approach Catherine. As I walked closer, I could see the sadness etched on her face, and my heart ached for her. "Catherine," I said softly, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked up, surprise flickering in her eyes, quickly replaced by a mixture of regret and longing. "David," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't expect to see you here." There was an awkward silence between us, the weight of our shared history hanging in the air. "I'm with Laura," I said, gesturing to my girlfriend who stood a few steps back, giving us space. Catherine's eyes flickered to Laura, and I could see the realization wash over her. "I hope you're doing okay," I added, my voice tinged with compassion despite the hurt she had caused. Catherine sighed, her expression heavy with emotion. "I'm trying," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I've been struggling to find my way since everything happened. I miss what we had, David. I miss you. Hearing her words stirred something deep within me. Memories of our laughter, our dreams, and the love we once shared rushed back, and for a moment, I felt a pang of nostalgia. But alongside that nostalgia was a firm reminder of the pain and betrayal that had followed. "I can't go back, Catherine," I said, my voice steady but gentle. "What happened between us changed everything. I've moved on, and I'm happy now." I glanced back at Laura, who was watching quietly, her expression supportive yet cautious. Catherine's eyes filled with tears, and I felt a twinge of sympathy. "I know I messed up," she said, her voice breaking. "I wish I could take it all back. I never wanted to hurt you." "I know," I replied, my heart softening slightly. "But it happened, and we both have to live with the consequences. I found someone who makes me happy again." I gestured to Laura, who stepped forward, her presence a grounding force beside me. Catherine looked at Laura, her expression a mix of sadness and acceptance. "I'm glad you found happiness, David. You deserve it." Her voice was sincere, and I could see the pain of loss reflected in her eyes. As we stood there, the weight of our past hung in the air, but I felt a sense of closure beginning to take shape. This encounter was a reminder of the journey I had taken, the growth I had experienced, and the new path I was forging. "I hope you find your way too, Catherine," I said softly. "We all deserve a second chance." With that, I turned to Laura, who smiled at me with understanding. Together, we began to walk away, leaving the past behind us. As we strolled through the park, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. I had faced my past, acknowledged the pain, and reaffirmed my commitment to the future. With Laura by my side, I was ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, knowing that I had the strength to move forward, no matter the challenges that came my way. As I reflected on everything that had transpired, I realized that my journey had been one of profound transformation. The pain of betrayal, the struggle for justice, and the eventual healing had all shaped me into a stronger, more resilient person. I had faced my demons, confronted my past, and emerged on the other side with a renewed sense of self. I took a moment to appreciate the lessons I had learned along the way. I had learned to value myself and my feelings, to recognize my worth beyond the confines of a broken relationship. The experience taught me that love could be both beautiful and painful and that it was essential to prioritize my happiness. With Laura by my side, I felt a sense of hope for the future. Our relationship was built on trust, respect, and a shared understanding of the complexities of life. She had shown me that it was possible to love again, to open my heart to new possibilities without the shadows of the past looming over us. Together, we explored new adventures, embraced new challenges, and built a foundation of love that felt genuine. As I moved forward, I understood that the past would always be a part of me. But it no longer defined who I was. I had learned to let go of the anger and resentment that had once consumed me. Instead, I chose to focus on the present and the bright future that lay ahead. I also recognized the importance of forgiveness, not just for Catherine but for myself. I had to forgive myself for the pain I had endured and for the mistakes I had made in my journey. It was a liberating realization, one that allowed me to fully embrace the life I was creating. In the quiet moments of reflection, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, armed with the knowledge that I had the strength to overcome adversity. I was no longer the man who had been blindsided by betrayal. I was a man who had risen from the ashes, ready to embrace life with open arms. As I looked to the future, I felt excitement bubbling within me. There were new relationships to build, new experiences to explore, and new challenges to conquer. I was ready to step into this new chapter of my life, leaving behind the pain of the past and embracing the possibilities that awaited me. With each passing day, I felt more confident in my ability to navigate the complexities of life. I had learned that love could be found again, that happiness was within reach, and that I had the power to shape my destiny. The journey had been difficult, but it had also been incredibly rewarding. As I closed this chapter of my life, I did so with gratitude. I was thankful for the lessons learned, the strength gained, and the love that had blossomed anew. I was ready to embrace the future, knowing that I had the resilience to face whatever came my way. Life was a beautiful tapestry of experiences, and I was excited to see what the next threads would bring.